Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and today we are going to be answering your questions live. Anything concerning the business of being an author, writing, publishing is what we'll be covering today. You can join us anytime by going to newshelves.com/FAF. We meet every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also email in your questions to info@newshelves.com. We have a couple of questions that were emailed in this week, and we are going to start with those first. So the first question is, now that IngramSpark has eliminated fees to upload on its platform, I was thinking about putting my children's book there. However, I recently read on Facebook posts of people complaining about high fees for returns. When they contact IngramSpark, the company refuses to give details about the cost. So here is the case of actually the people using the platform not necessarily understanding that platform and what they're agreeing to. This is not IngramSpark doing anything. This is the business. So let me tackle that first. IngramSpark is, of course, a print-on-demand company. When you set up your book on IngramSpark, you choose if you're what or how much of a retail discount you're going to give to retailers, to libraries. So when you're setting up your pricing, you actually choose the discount. There's a minimum required discount of 30 or 35%, depending on which country you're printing and shipping in. And then you can go up to 55%. 55% is what you need to set on IngramSpark for a full trade discount. What happens there is that the 55% IngramSpark prints your books and they get paid for printing. They send your books over to Ingram Wholesale. Ingram Wholesale keeps 15% of the retail price for their services and getting you in their wholesale catalog. And then the retailer would order the book at a 40% discount. This is very normal. Again, it's called a trade discount. It's standard. So what happens then is that the bookstore, let's say Barnes & Noble or a local indie bookstore, orders the book at 40% off. They then sell at full retail price, and 40% is what they keep for selling your book. That's how a bookshop works. So that's very normal. But along with the discount that you set at IngramSpark, you also have to set your returns. So on IngramSpark, you can say, I will not accept returns. That is your right. However, a lot of retail stores require that there are returns available. The reason being is it's kind of like an insurance policy. They don't want to return your books, but because if they don't sell your books, they don't make money. So they don't want to return your books. However, returns are a normal part of the process, because if they order your book and it doesn't sell, well, then they want to recoup that money. First, they will probably discount your book to see if they can make some money. And if it's still not selling, they may return it back to IngramSpark. And if you have returns set on IngramSpark, then yes, you are responsible for the cost of those returns. So there are a couple of return options if you choose to accept returns. There is return and destroy. What that means is that when someone returns a book, they actually don't ship the books back. What they do is they show proof that they have destroyed the books and they ship that back. So in that case, they actually rip off the front cover of a book. They rip off front cover of a book. They ship those back to Ingram as proof that these books were not sold. They're not in saleable condition. They were returned and destroyed. Now, the reason why authors may choose to do that is because if you choose that you would like to have returns, but you would like to have returns that are shipped back to you, you are responsible for the shipping cost, and that can get quite pricey. So not only is the book returned, and you obviously have to give that money back, just as any store. If I go to Walmart, return a shirt, they give me my money back. It's the same idea. So if there's a return, you're responsible for returning that money through IngramSpark, but also you are responsible for reimbursing or paying for the shipping of your books, which can be, as I mentioned, quite pricey. On top of that, returned books just have to be returned in what's called saleable condition. And saleable condition is very controversial. Most of the time, books are going to be in okay shape. but they may be scuffed up, especially if you have a light or a white cover. They may be scuffed up. They may have slight dog ears on the covers, some bent edges. That's still considered saleable condition. So you may not be getting a brand new pristine book. Remember, this may have been sitting on their shelf. So you're paying for that return book. And then let's say they return 100 books. You suddenly got 100 books that are being shipped, which is going to cost a bit. And then you've got these 100 books. Let's say when they come back, maybe only 8 of them are in really good condition because 20% were on the bookshelf and they're not, or their dust jacket is kind of torn or things like that. That's still considered saleable condition. So you've then got 80 books that are in good condition. How are you going to sell them? Because now you've got print copies. If you are doing something like a lot of speaking, public speaking, and you do back of house sales or bulk sales, this may work for you. But for the average author or small publisher, the cost of getting those books shipped back and then having to deal with them afterwards isn't worth it. So they would just rather take the loss and a lower fee to destroy the book. So that's kind of the options. Now, when there are returns, some of the things that IngramSpark will tell you is that the books were returned, depending on if you set it. If you set your book on IngramSpark to no returns, they don't accept returns. So this is something you actually agreed to and set up when you set up your book on IngramSpark, which is really important to note. Now, again, a lot of retail stores, if you do not set your book to returns, will not accept the book. It's their insurance policy. You have the right to bypass that, though. Libraries typically are not going to be returning. They're not, resale for profit. They're putting on the shelf and then just letting people read it. So they don't care about returns as much. Some schools don't care about returns, but it's definitely going to affect your sales or where people will accept your book. So that's what you need to know about returns. And then IngramSpark, if you do get returns, they tell you how many and they tell you the amount. They do not tell you where from because they do not give out that information. That is personal. Well, it's not personal, but it's company information. Just like we don't see, okay, this order came from Barnes and Noble. This order came from Novel in Memphis. We don't see that kind of thing because that is customer information that we don't see that. It's private information for the customer. IngramSpark takes that information. We can see that there are orders, but not where from. The same thing for returns. We can see there's returns, but not where from. So yes, returns can be an issue, especially for small press or for indie authors. And it's something you need to think carefully about your goals as an author. And if you are going to accept returns from IngramSpark, you absolutely need to consider that and you need to plan for it. You need to budget for it because it's not unusual to get returns. Ideally, you don't get less or you don't get more than 10% returns, but sometimes you do. And as an author, you may say, I can't afford that or my business can't afford that. So I'm going to set no returns. And if that means I don't get retail sales, then that's what happens. But it's really important to realize, it's really, really important to realize that this is not IngramSpark being shady. It's not IngramSpark doing anything wrong. This is how the user has set up their agreement with retailers and with bookstores and with IngramSpark, and IngramSpark following that. So again, I think it's really important to realize what is truly the company's issue and what is an agreement of the person using it who maybe just doesn't understand what they agreed to. And really, the burden of that is on you. If I agree to a user agreement on, I don't know, on Zoom, ultimately I'm responsible for that. And so that's the kind of thing. And there are, when you do set up discounts and things on IngramSpark, there are multiple pop-ups that say, this is what it means. Do you understand this is what it means? And you have to agree to that. And partially that's because of people kind of saying things or, coming and blaming them. And so that's partially why they really want people to understand that's how it works. So again, just really important to know the difference and educate yourselves because that's your job as a publisher. Let's see. And then the follow-up question was, do most people visit stores for books or do they go on Amazon? So about 56% of print books are bought directly on Amazon, and 91% of ebooks are estimated to be bought on Amazon in the US, and very similar numbers in the UK. Now, do people buy elsewhere? Absolutely they do. Not only do they buy, do they go into Barnes and Noble? Do they go into bookstores to buy books? I go to my local bookstore frequently. And so people do buy in bookstores, but not only that, they order online through places like bookshop.org. They go to barnesandnoble.com and different things like that. So it is another opportunity for you. You just have to weigh how much you're going to market it, how much it's worth it to you. And if it's not worth it to you, set your book for no returns, and then just know that and market around that. I try to add a title to IngramSpark. It turns out I used to print on demand using Lightning Source. Now is IngramSpark. Yes, so way before IngramSpark was Lightning Source, they're tied together. That's correct. So my company is Educare Press. I own my own ISBN numbers. When I added the ISBN for my new title, IngramSpark said I can't use it because it's owned by Educare Press, but I am Educare Press. I sent an email to their help desk. So probably what's happening here is that it's already in the system. So rather than filing to try to upload the book, chances are that ISBN's already in use and you can't reuse an ISBN, or it may be that it needs to be transferred from one account to the other. However, if you used to use Lightning Source, they still have an active platform. You can still get into that platform and you can work from that platform. So I think the most important thing is to know, is this ISBN currently in use? And you should be able to ask IngramSpark. You should be able to check your books, but also if you know anyone who has access to Ingram wholesale account, they can check on that for you as well. So you would want to check that, see if the ISBN is in use or not. If it is, you can't reuse an ISBN. If it is, but it's on the book you're trying to upload, then you need to see about a transfer, not re-uploading. And then if it's never been used and you just have two accounts, you may just need to go into your Lightning Source account and figure it out there. So you do have options. It's the good news, but there's a little bit of investigative work that's going to need to be done before you can move forward. In uploading a combination story and coloring book to KDP for print on demand, are PDF files still accepted, or is there a new file format KDP is implementing? No, all print books are still uploaded as PDF. So if you're going to IngramSpark, KDP, Drafted Digital, it doesn't matter where you're uploading a print book. You need a PDF file for your full cover, including the spine, front and back. And then you need an interior PDF that has your actual book in PDF. Let's see, I pre-published a book on KDP or for Amazon, and also pre-published the paperback and hardcover through Ingram. I set the release for the same date in the future. Now that all three versions are live, I'm trying to publish the paperback and hardcover on Amazon, but keep getting an error message. Please fix the highlighted error to continue. There are no highlighted errors showing up on the 3 setup pages. Details, content, rates and pricing, etc. I wonder if this is a new Amazon glitch and if I might need to unpublish the hard copies on Ingram first before I can set up on Amazon. Mike, that should not be the case. I regularly upload a book first on IngramSpark and then Amazon, or Amazon, then IngramSpark. So that's probably not the case. What you may need to do is you may need to delete the listing on Amazon and start from scratch. If there is a glitch, usually it's on that specific setup page. So I would delete and start from the beginning. The other thing that you want to consider when you're doing this is making sure that your ISBN is matched to your publishing company name as registered at Bowker exactly. This is a common hang-up, is that if, let's say, for example, my publishing company is Keri Barnum Inc., and I have a period at the end of Inc., If I upload my book with the ISBN number, and in Bowker, it's registered to Keri Barnum Inc. with a period. And on KDP, I upload my book, same ISBN, everything's correct. And if I put my publishing company name as Keri Barnum Inc. with no period, they are not going to correlate that this is the same publisher, and they will reject that book. If I have my ISBN and I copy and pasted it, so I have my publisher name correct, Keri Barnum Inc., period. But if I copy and paste it over my ISBN and there's a space at the end of my ISBN number, it's not going to register. So this is probably one of the most common things I see when we get an error on these pages, and that's what I check for. The other thing to think about is that if you're trying to upload your hardcover, so if you did a hardcover on IngramSpark, just make sure that it's exactly the same specs. So KDP only does case laminate, and they only do books in certain sizes. So if you uploaded your book to KDP, make sure that the same exact specs are on IngramSpark. You can't use the same ISBN and have a dust jacket on IngramSpark and then a plain laminate on KDP. It doesn't work that way. They have to be exactly the same. Let's see, how can an author get his books listed or promoted by early bird books? I'm not personally familiar with early bird books, John, so I'm afraid I can't answer that for you. I'm happy to look into the company and then let you know next week. And certainly if anyone else has worked with them, it looks like they do ebook deals. So usually if it's an ebook deal company, then that is a company where you would advertise with them and do it that way. But again, I'm happy to look into that for you and let you know next week. Or if anyone else has experience, feel free to drop it in the chat. Let's see. Been having issues with Amazon launch days when the hardback version shows us out of stock. These books were uploaded by IngramSpark Lightning Source. They are ready and willing and able to fulfill these orders, but Amazon seems to be blackballing Ingram in favor of their print-on-demand printers. Is this true? It can be true. So here's the thing. If you're uploading your book to IngramSpark and having that sent over to Amazon for sales, Amazon actually, in order to sell the book, Amazon has to have a couple of copies in stock in their warehouse. Sometimes, depending on how it's set up, they actually can't order the book until your launch date on IngramSpark. And if that's the case, then they order those copies, but then it's not in stock. There's not actually anything there for them to ship out, and that can cause this. Sometimes what happens is that it literally just needs a re-upload to the system. So if it's been several weeks and it's still out of stock, you can contact IngramSpark and just ask them to re-upload the metadata to Amazon and KDP. Sometimes that can help. And to help with that in the future, I have found that if you get at least a couple of pre-orders prior to your launch, that really helps, because what happens is if there are pre-orders, Amazon will go ahead and they automatically order stock copies from IngramSpark prior to launch date so that they can have it to fill those orders. So I do recommend, if you're going to put a pre-order up, really work to make sure that at least a couple of copies have been pre-ordered prior to your launch date, and that should help a little bit. But ultimately, it's Amazon's playground, and sometimes they're a bully. It really stinks, but it just is what it is. So those are some strategies you can use. I know it's frustrating. It is not IngramSpark doing anything wrong. It's not you doing anything wrong. In some cases, not even Amazon trying to not work with people. It's a lot of interconnected systems. And if they're not treated just right, if you don't do the things that those systems like, sometimes they just don't work optimally, unfortunately. How would you recommend buying author copies from KDP or IngramSpark? My proof copy is from IngramSpark and cost almost as much as the book with tax and handling, and then was lost en route. Yeah, so if you do IngramSpark, I highly recommend that you get the tracked books to where they are insured and all that kind of stuff. It costs a little bit more, but typically it's worth it. But anyway, If you are looking for author copies, I have to say that if you need a limited number of copies and you want them more quickly, KDP author copies, if the book is live, keep in mind you cannot do this when the book is not live on KDP for Amazon. But if the book is live, getting author copies from KDP from Amazon typically is going to be slightly cheaper and quicker, especially if you're doing low volume, if you're doing anywhere from 1 to 10 books, let's say. If you are doing a larger quantity print, if you are getting 100, 500 copies, I recommend you go from IngramSpark. I think the quality, especially on the larger runs, is slightly better. So if you're going to be ordering several hundred, I would go through IngramSpark. I do recommend, know that it's going to take a little while, know that the shipping takes a little while, and you do absolutely want to pay, not for like the Mac Daddy shipping, but you do want to pay for the shipping that's tracked and insured. It is worth it, I promise you. And then you can get them that way. That's my personal preference. I do think you should always order author copies from each platform in the beginning to ensure that your book looks great, it's printed well. I've had authors who will use the same PDF cover for both IngramSpark and Amazon without changing the sizing to their template. And that means that it may fit perfectly on IngramSpark, but it's a little off on Amazon. Or it may mean that on Amazon it looks great and on IngramSpark it shifted a little bit because their template sizes are a little bit different. And so that's something I always recommend you order a proof or an author copy from both platforms, even though ordering a single copy from IngramSpark is, you know, it's a little pricier. You're going to pay like retail cost for your book. That's what I recommend. Yes, would you remind us what, how many or what Amazon review numbers we need to strive for? I always say your first goal for Amazon reviews should be 15 reviews. I do not typically run ads for a book that has less than 15 reviews. It is the minimum requirement for social proof. So 15 is the first big one. After that, I say 35, you see a little bit of an algorithm boost on Amazon. And then at 50 is when you are qualified to where Amazon, at 50 reviews, Amazon may start sending your book out in marketing emails. This is not anything you pay for or that you choose, but based on people's buying habits, their reading habits, and other things they may have bought, Amazon may start including you in free marketing emails. So 50 reviews is a big one. After that, it's on the 100. So at 100, you definitely, there's no official rules, but there's enough correlation and there's enough, you know, experience to where 100 reviews, you get more social trust, you get more algorithm boost. After 100, it tends to be on the 100. So 200, 300. The next really big one seems to be at 500 is when you, again, it's both algorithm boost and bots boosting, but it's also social trust. When you have that many reviews is when people are like, okay, I doubt they know 500 people that all reviewed the book. So that's when you tend to see it a little bit more. And so I would, of course, 500. After 500, you want to strive for 1,000 and so on and so forth. And when you get there, I think you can probably stop worrying about it so much. So no big there, just 1,000. Yep. All righty. Now, a couple things that came up that I wanted to talk about. Speaking of shipping, because we were talking about how some shipping can be a tad bit slow, there is some concern that there may be a UPS strike coming up. So the UPS and the Teamsters Union are kind of stalling over contract negotiations this year. And if those are not worked out by July 31st, it is possible that UPS will be going on strike, which could, of course, affect a lot of booksellers. If we're talking about not only getting books to, UPS, we're talking about getting books to our distributors. We're talking about getting books to bookstores, even in some cases directly to consumers. Now, of course, there's always other options. Amazon has like their own team that does a lot of stuff. There's FedEx and different things like that, but it would certainly affect the market overall. So that's just something to be aware of if you are needing books or a big, you are ordering author copies for an event, something like that. Probably smart to do it before July 31st, when we may see some strikes going on over at UPS. Let's see, we had a question. Where is it? All right, we had a question from Walt, and it was specifically about how Facebook treats Reels. So Walt is saying that he has these reels that he posts, and he's been doing these videos he's trying to get under a minute. So they are YouTube shorts, which, by the way, Walt is saying that these YouTube shorts have been doing a really great job of getting more views. You can't monetize them unless you have a lot of views, but these YouTube shorts are getting more views. They're getting more people over to his YouTube page and getting more subscribers. So that's good to know. YouTube shorts can also be used on TikTok if you do TikTok. And then he's taking those shorts and he's uploading them as Facebook Reels. But the question is that while his author page has significantly less subscribers than his personal Facebook with his friends group, that the Reels on his Facebook author page get much more exposure and views than those uploaded directly to his personal Facebook page. So you guys know that you have a personal Facebook page, and that's where I have to ask to be your friend. And then you should also have a Facebook author or business page, which is a public page that acts more like a website. So I don't have to get permission to view it or to interact with you. So you should have both. And your Facebook business page or your author page is where people can come and visit you. It is where you can also run Facebook ads from, which is why it's so important to have one of those. You cannot run ads from a personal Facebook account. So the question, though, going back to that, is that if he's posting the Reels on both his Facebook author page and his Facebook personal page, the author page is getting way more views and responses than his personal page, but his personal page has more friends on it. What's the deal? So this is a matter of algorithms. There's a couple things that play into this. Number one, when you are working on a business page, the analytics track what people are most likely to respond to, and those pages are public and they get shown to different people. When you are posting to your personal Facebook page, there are a couple of differences. Your personal friends, family, and audience may not be an audience that is actively participating in Reels or videos, in which case it's not going to show to them, or it's not going to get their views, because their algorithm is not set up to have that show up in their feed. So it doesn't matter how many people you have on your personal feed, if their personal habits aren't to watch Reels and videos, it's not going to show to them as much as on a author page. The way that works is that it's feeding off of a larger algorithm, not just personal friends, but it's feeding off of pretty much everyone on Facebook. So you will get more views typically on that author page. The other thing to consider is when you're posting your Facebook Reels, if you're posting it on your personal page, they may be private, which means that you may only be able to show them to people who you are friends with on Facebook. Whereas if you are on your business page, if I look at your Facebook Reel on your business page, then what can often happen is that if I interact with that Reel, the way the algorithms work is that that Reel will then show to people that I am friends with and I interact with. So it's kind of this kind of wildfire effect where it kind of attracts people that way. Whereas if it's a personal feed and the video is private, it may not be able to do that. So that's kind of how it works, is that it all feeds off of algorithm. And many times when there are limits to how far your content can go on your personal Facebook page. Whereas when you're going to your business page, you've got more exposure, it's more public. And so that's why it can also get more views and likes and that kind of thing. And that is why we have business pages. That's why we have Facebook business pages, because that's what it's really meant for. So hopefully that makes sense and and makes sense for you. But I love that you're repurposing your content, that you're putting it on YouTube and TikTok and Reels. I think that's such a smart use of content to really reuse things that way. Yes, on the topic of Amazon reviews, can you talk a little bit about Puppy? So Puppy is a review platform, and the way that this review platform works is that on Puppy, you have to subscribe, and it works on a point system. So this points, I believe there's also a monthly fee that's pretty nominal, but there's a point system. Essentially what happens is that every time that you agree to read and review a book and you do so, you get points. Your points then accumulate so that you can put your book up for review. So in a sense, it's this brilliant system that allows authors to leave reviews for other authors that they're not personally connected to, and these reviews should not get flagged on Amazon, because it's not I'll review your book if you review my book. It's you going and saying, hey, I'm interested in karate, so I'm going to review this book on karate, and I like cooking, so I'm going to review this book on cooking. And then you get your points, which allows your book to be listed as a review option, and then people from other accounts may or may not pick up your book. Now, there are times where your book is put up for a listing and it's not chosen. So I have seen that where someone does review for other people, their listing goes up, they get points, and then they're not getting much response because their book just hasn't been chosen. So that's something to kind of think about. I have seen other people who are like, hey, this worked. I got some really nice reviews. It worked well for me. However, you have to remember that this is a time commitment. This is one of those things where, yes, you are likely to get reviews. I will say that you're likely to get reviews if your book is nonfiction. This, in my experience, in my opinion, has not worked as well for fiction books, but for nonfiction, it has. But you have to be willing and able to put in the time to read and review other authors' books. So just know it's not like, hey, I'm going to pay my fee and walk away. It's a time commitment from you. So are you willing or able to look for books and review them? Now, you do get to search through, and some of them are offered free. Some of them are on Kindle Unlimited, and some of them are actually like, you have to buy this book. You have to buy this book for 99 cents from Amazon, read and review it. Those are all things that you kind of set up. So for nonfiction, though, it can be a good option, especially if you're, if you're at 47 reviews and you want to get to 50, it may be worth that time commitment. And I'm sure that you can find books that you'd be interested in reviewing to accumulate those points on Puppy. So yes, absolutely. All right. There was another thing. Oh, as I'm sure you guys have noticed, there's a new app called Threads. It is actually called Threads, an Instagram app. And this is a new app that was put out by Meta, who also owns Facebook and Instagram, that mimics Twitter. So the idea is that it's very Twitter-like. It is connected to your Instagram account. So if you download it, works for both. It works for both Apple and Samsung. It is, I believe it's only available in the US and UK at the moment. This app is connected to your Instagram account. So if you get an account and you claim it, it automatically, suggests that you get the same username, and then it allows you to follow or connect with everyone that you currently have on Instagram. So if you have a really big Instagram platform and you join it, chances are a lot of those will actually transfer over to your Threads app. Threads so far, a couple of things to note is it is the closest to Twitter that I have seen. It's very Twitter-like. I did try Mastodon and some of those other ones a couple of months ago when Twitter was going crazy, and they were clunky. They were not great, to be honest. Threads is very much like Twitter. It's the same idea. It's constantly going. Now, what everyone's saying so far and everyone is seeing is that it's like a fire hose. There's no algorithm going on. Whatever is posted, everyone's seeing. It's like It's like word vomit. It's word vomit on an app at the moment. There's not an algorithm really going strong. As far as like hashtags and stuff, we don't know how well that's working because it's new. The overall consensus seems to be that that will kind of fix itself over time as algorithms take into account. So this has been a very popular app. I believe the first day that it was introduced, I believe it was the first day. It may have been the first, just released this week. I think it was yesterday. I don't know. Time goes way too quick. But anyway, 10 million users have downloaded it already. So massive success. And that's already going on. My personal concern with this, I do think it is a good Twitter alternate in the way that it's used. However, my personal concern is that if Threads takes off and Twitter kind of dies, what's going to happen is that Meta will now own 3 of our major social media platforms. Meta will own Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. So any of their algorithm changes, any of their censorship, any things where they require you to pay suddenly, you're trapped in it for all 3 of those major social media platforms, which gives me some pause and cause for concern. We've all seen where, Facebook suddenly changes algorithms. We're not getting results there. Twitter is censoring. We're stymied there. So there is some concern in my part for how that happens. That's something to watch and to kind of just be aware of, because if you get locked out of your Meta account, let's say someone hacks your account, or let's say I had a client who got kicked off of Facebook because their book was set during the Civil War and used the word it was simply the word slavery. It was talking about slavery. Mind you, it was saying slavery was bad and it was kind of against slavery and things like that, and enslavement. But because that word was a trigger button for Facebook at the time, he was banned from Facebook. His account was closed. He lost everything. And if he's using Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and that happens, he would have lost everything. He would have been starting from scratch. Whereas, if he was in Twitter and different things, there is some more availability. There's some more options there. So being all under one heading is a little concerning to me. However, it's taking off like wildfire. I'm on there. You can find me at Keri Barnum and at New Shelves Books, so that you can put that. And yes, Meta also owns WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is often used for messaging internationally and things like that, and phone and all that. So they own those as well. But anyway, just recently, there is now supposedly a lawsuit from Elon Musk suing Threads and Meta for, encroachment on Twitter territory. So that didn't take long. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with it? Social media drama going on over there, but it is a fun app to check out. So of course I give these warnings as I'm like, but yeah, go try it, go have fun. And I think it's interesting, and I think it's definitely something to be on the watch for. I think it's smart to know what's going on with some of these apps and how they may work for you, and especially being able to transfer your already built audience from Instagram over could be really helpful. So I will say that. Let's see. As an author using Amazon and IngramSpark, the author illustrator owns the copyright, correct? Yes, the author and illustrator, depending on how that's set up, does own the copyright of a book, whether you're using KDP or IngramSpark. What you are giving them is distribution permissions. You don't give away your copyright. Same thing typically when a author sells a book to a trade publisher or something like that, they retain the copyright. They are just giving distribution and sales right to the publisher, or publishing rights to the publisher. So typically the author always keeps their copyright. It's just tied up for a little while if it's trade publication. If you are using Amazon KDP, you retain the copyright. You're just giving distribution and printing permissions. So you have that, and that is the way that works in the US is claiming copyright in the US. As soon as you put it out as a work, it is yours. It is technically copyrighted. In the US, you can also file with the US copyright, and you are encouraged to do so within 90 days of publication, because if you do that within 90 days of publication, should you ever need to actually protect your copyright or to sue somebody, you're actually, you're liable to get more in damages. So there are reasons to go and file an official copyright. It can make your life easier if there's ever any issues on Amazon or anything like that. Not required, but encouraged. Let's see. I didn't win a Benjamin Franklin Award from IBPA, but the judges' feedback was incredibly positive. Can I do anything to share this praise? Yes, typically you can share that praise, which is fantastic. So you could share that in this way as like an editorial praise. So for example, quote, this book was one of the most helpful and uplifting books I've read in 2023, end quote. And then you would either give the judge's name. So Joe Beth, comma, Benjamin Franklin Award judge. You can do something like that. So typically you definitely want to check the rules to see if there's anything against that. You can always, if you are concerned, double check with the award group. So in this case, it'd be IBPA. You can double check with them and say, I'd like to share the praise or the feedback that I got from the judges. Am I able to share that? But typically the answer is yes. And you can certainly share that. And, or even say, a social media post. Congratulations to the Benjamin Franklin Award winners this year. My book didn't make it, but I got this lovely feedback that I just had to share. Or you could say different things like that. So there are ways to work that in a positive way. And absolutely, you can. Is there a specific time that is better to share a review from Kirkus, specifically for books a good fit for schools and libraries? Yes. I remember seeing an email that you got a Kirkus review. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Number one, share it on social media, share parts of it at different times, spread it out. Absolutely, congratulations. The other ways you can use your Kirkus review is you can use that in your editorial review. So on Amazon, if you go to Author Central, you go to your books tab, find your book, go to edit, US only, and you can actually add the editorial review on your Amazon sales page. If you're using IngramSpark, there is also a spot to put editorial reviews and you can add it there. Other ways you might use it is if you are doing promotion or you have a book one sheet or you're reaching out to bookstores or libraries, you absolutely would want to include that comment on there. Recently called the best book for 12th graders on this topic by Kirkus Reviews, blah, 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 is available now from Ingram Wholesale. And then maybe you would actually quote that quote. So absolutely, you can work that into your marketing. And if you're pitching directly to bookstores or libraries or wherever that market might be, you can work it in there. Is there an edition of Kirkus that is better to have it listed, like before schools open, or doesn't it really matter? It doesn't really matter. The timing doesn't really matter. It's more of when you're pitching. So like, for example, if you are hoping to pitch for schools, July is not your best moment. This is why we don't do library mailings in July. We do library mailings in June and we do them again in August, September. The reason why is almost every school or school age library. Now, while there are public libraries still buying books, if you're going to schools specifically, schools typically their librarians are not really working, or they're not really buying books in July. They may be buying books at the end of the school year. They may be buying books in preparation in August, September, but typically a lot of teachers are either minimally working or they are taking off in July. So I would not be pitching to schools necessarily in July. However, going in late August when they're coming back, early September, and even October are great times to pitch schools. Let's see. thought I had one more email. I did. Julie had a question about how to use an email list to give everyone the opportunity to see your website, book, blog, etc. So when we're talking about your email list, we kind of need to know, what is your email list? Is this a personal email list? Are you building an email list on, let's say, MailChimp? Because you will use them slightly differently. If it's your personal email list, then reaching out and giving one, announcement is fine, but you do not have permission to email these people over and over for sales pitches, and you can burn a lot of bridges that way. So I don't recommend you do that. What I do recommend is that you give people the option to sign up and get notifications of your book. So you may email your personal list and say, hey, everybody, exciting news. I've been working on this book for years. This is what it's about, and it's about to launch. I know not all of you are readers, so I just wanted to give you an option. If you are interested, if you would like updates, here's my mailing list for that. Here's my website for that. You can go sign up. So you're giving them an opt-in, but you're also letting them know you're not going to pepper your personal email list with things that maybe they aren't invested in and fill up their inbox. So you're going to respect their connection to you. I think it's really important as business owners, as authors, as people trying to sell a product. I think it's really important. Of course, we want to tell our personal connections about it. We want to ask them for reviews and things like that. But I think it's also very important that we respect that it's a personal relationship. I work in books. I love to talk about books. I want to talk about the things I'm doing with my business. My brother's not a reader. He doesn't want 50 emails from me about books. He doesn't want to be on my email list, and that's okay. That's not our connection. It's okay for him to opt out of my business because it's not something he's interested in. And I think it's really important that we respect our personal connections, our friends and our family in that way. Now, once you have an email list, you have a MailChimp list, you've given people the option to opt in, then I do recommend that you stay in touch with them. That may look like emailing them every week. It may be once a month. You decide how much you're comfortable with. For a lot of authors, I find that every other week or once a month is plenty, but make sure that you're bringing value. We don't want to just push our books. Bring value to that. I was talking with an author not long ago where I said, kind of think about what your reader wants and then make sure you're giving some of that and then you're bringing in your book. So maybe that's, hey, here's my review of a romance book I read this week that you might be interested in. By the way, here's what my book characters are up to, and you can always, find them here. And then, something else. So make sure that you are building a connection and not just trying to sell nonstop. As far as pushing people to your website, that is one of the excuse me, that is one of the things where you actually want to just make it available. Your website's not going to get a ton of traffic, especially in the beginning, but you can put it in your email signature. You can put your website link in most of your business bios. So like if you have Instagram, you can put it in your bio there. If you have Facebook business page, you can put it in the about section. If you are writing books, you can have at the back of the book about the author and connect with me over on newshelves.com. So you have ways to share that, and you basically want to make it available. For building your email list specifically, typically we're going to entice people over with a giveaway, and that may be a short story, bonus scenes. It may just be updates, but you have to actively ask people. And if you do have something like a short story or bonus scenes or something you're giving away, if you're a children's book, maybe it's activity packet or coloring pages, but you actively have to promote that giveaway and sign up to your newsletter page. That's how you build. It's slow in the beginning, I promise you, but it can be done. And then the more you have, the more you can promote out, and it's that snowball rolling downhill. So I often get the questions, well, how can I skip the line? Or how can I speed up this process? Typically you can't. Sometimes money can speed up the process. However, when I say money, I'm not saying hundreds of dollars. I'm saying thousands to tens of thousands of dollars in marketing and promotion. can sometimes help you jump the line. But most of the time, slow and steady is going to win the race. It takes consistent effort, and there are very rarely going to be legitimate ways to jump a line or to just not take that time. It's just unfortunately not how the business works. Let's see. We released a book this week, and it hits #1 in several categories and 11,000 overall on Amazon, but no bestseller badge. So that could be a couple of different reasons. If it's hitting #1 but not getting a #1 bestseller badge, it could be a glitch in the system. It may be it's hitting #1 and it's not showing up. Like, again, it's just a glitch in the system. Sometimes it will be Amazon's questioning the legitimacy of the orders, and it can be slow to pick up. And sometimes it'll be like it hit #1 in like new release or something like that. And I have seen where a badge doesn't show up even though it's supposed to. What I would personally recommend is, if you're not seeing that badge, click on the list, click on the hyperlink that shows the list you made #1 on, screenshot just that bestseller list with you in #1 spot. So if you're not getting the badge, I do those things. Unfortunately, I've seen this more than once when there's a glitch with reporting or bots or systems. And Amazon's been having a heck of a time. I believe we talked about it last week. Amazon has been having a heck of a time with their bestseller list because there is AI junk being pumped onto KDP. And then there are click farms that are clicking. So books are getting to the bestseller list. So AI bots and click farms are really screwing it up for a lot of people. And what I have seen happen is, as Amazon's trying to clean house and take those down, it is affecting things like bestseller badges, ranking, and all of that. And unfortunately, it's just one of those things. They have to deal with this issue. And sometimes it does negatively affect people who are really hitting things as they should. So take screenshots where you can and celebrate that way. It really does stink, but there's not much we can actually do about it. All right, I think, let's see. I think I got all of the questions answered. Let me just double check. Let's see. I think I've answered everything. If I didn't get your question answered, please let me know. We've got like a minute more, but I think we covered everything. I will, of course, be back next week. You guys, I am so excited for the next couple of months of our special guest. We have Alessandra Torres coming on. She is a well-known best-selling romance author with a lot of success, and she's going to be coming on this month as our guest. I'll give you guys more information as it gets closer. We have, I believe, Anna is coming on to talk about translation and film rights. So she'll be here to answer all of our questions about selling rights for your books for translation and film in August. And then in September, we have a sensitivity reader who's going to come on and talk about sensitivity reading and diversity. So we've got a great lineup the next couple of months of guests that will be coming up. I'll let you know more about those as they actually come along. But I think this is just amazing opportunity. These people have volunteered their time to come and chat with us. So I'm very excited. I'll keep you guys up to date. And then next week, it'll just be little old me, but I'll be here and we'll be answering your questions live. So join us 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.